Hey everybody, on today to continue the conversation we've been having about current times, about the emotional intensity that we're all experiencing, the chaos, the confusion, the turbulence, the anxiety, the anger, polarity, and so much more. And today, what I want to bring out is I want to once again emphasize that as you gain a bigger frame, every time you have a new understanding, a new piece of the puzzle, the entire experience that you are going through will shift. Things will reorganize, and often, when it's the right piece that comes in at the right time, often your experience will shift in a from as the expression is in Hebrew, minikatza elakatza, from one extreme to the total opposite extreme, so that what appears like a negative suddenly is revealed to be a positive. So that's going to happen to us over time, but it's very uncomfortable to have things done to us, especially when they are destabilizing to the way that to our comfort zone, as certainly this is. So the other road that we're all invited to take, and that's really what I'm here to support and promote and explain, is the proactive transformational road, the proactive Geula road, where you acquire this larger frame, learn the tools and techniques, and practice them and master them that will allow you to proactively move and absorb the light of the light that is coming in, the potential that's coming into our world right now. And here's the deal. All of the things that are happening are here to disrupt, to wake us up, to disrupt our fixed ways of being that worked to whatever degree they did as part of the divine design until this time in history. At this time in history, everything is in the process of changing, and the changes are accelerating. And like birth, there's a phase of birth where the fetus is in the womb. It grows, yes, it learns, yes. That's like all the rest of history until recently, where things changed, but incrementally, pretty slowly. Maybe you had a better wheel, a better plow, or whatever. And then when it comes time for the birth, there are contractions, and they get stronger and stronger. And that's the acceleration that's been going on really for the last couple of 100 years. But it's just we're at the very end of that, where the contractions get much more intense. Or for all I know, we're in the pushing stage. I don't know, but it's completely understandable when you connect to this frame that things must change, and they are changing, and the world is moving to a situation that we won't recognize. Actually, the world's already in a situation that we don't recognize, but it's not a very pleasant one. It is just like the end of birth is not a pleasant experience, although it is one that can be ecstatic if you really understand how to work with it. But certainly the end of it, once like they say, it's always darkest before the dawn. So once that intense pressure and forced movement is over, there's utter relaxation and new life and new world. And that's where we're going. And I want to keep emphasizing that. We have to keep our eye on the ball. We have to keep our eyes on the future. And in that regard, I have come to believe over many years, like I really, really seriously believe this because I experience it so many different ways, that our thoughts and our emotions and our relationship with reality and our relationship with the creator, all of these things make a serious, profound difference in how things actually physically unfold. So that's true on two levels. That's true in your own life, right? So the world may be going one way, but if you're in a super aligned place, your life can be going in a completely different way. Like there are always people in financial collapses who are making a lot of money. There are always people when everyone's freaking out who are getting stronger and more resilient and maybe taking leadership. So this principle is clear. So we have our own individual destiny, our own individual journey, our unfolding into redemption, into Geula. As I've said before, we're all on the same train, but we're in different cars, and they're different. Let's say there's different decor in different cars. You can travel in the freight car where, the wind's blowing, the dust is coming in, and everything's bumping, the suitcases are hitting you, or you can travel in the, those beautiful train cars that the wealthy people in the 1800s used to have for themselves with gold fixtures. I think the Romanovs had a train like that, where everything is just, super first class. Now, this is, I have to say, what I'm saying now, it's true, and yet How it works is always uncertain because we're always interacting with our purpose, with our personal growth, with the things that need to be rectified within us, and with the entirety of what's happening. Nevertheless, I want you to know that you don't have to be, your destiny does not have to be ruled in any way. Your path to destiny does not have to be ruled in any way by the news, by the trends, or by what most people are thinking or experiencing. So I want to say that we can influence the unfolding of our reality. In fact, we always already do, but it's not conscious in most cases. And even if it is conscious, it can get a lot more conscious and it can get a lot more effective. So here's the next piece. The next piece is that, and as I mentioned in the live that I did yesterday, all of this started when Adam and Eve, of whom we are all a micro part, all of us are considered cells in the collective cosmic super organism of Adam and Eve. So whatever happened in the Garden of Eden happened to all of us. So when Adam and Eve ate from the Eitz Hadas Tov V'Ra, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, at the urging of the snake, and the snake, if you missed the live yesterday, you might want to go back and listen to it because it was really packed with information, and I hope transformation also. But I'll just continue where I left off in terms of that. So when Adam and Eve ate at the urging of the snake, the evil that was embedded in the snake, the Achilles heel of this paradise of the Garden of Eden, became internalized, actualized, and part of the human condition in a way that is very personal for each one of us. So we each are carrying around snake energy, and it is like a virus. So I think it's not an accident that what is currently working to wake up humanity, whatever the agendas are of however it showed up in the physical realm, but it's definitely a divine process. A virus, as far as I understand, isn't even alive. It doesn't have a life of its own, but what happens is it embeds itself in the cells of living organisms, living cells, and gives them instructions that then replicate themselves. So the act of eating from the tree of knowledge was like a virus in the human psyche, in the cosmic, the collective consciousness of humanity, and in a very individual level also. And we carry it forward through the generations. We carry it forward through our thought processes, through our emotional, the emotions, our habituated emotions, and our actions and our belief systems, again, both individually and collectively. And this is for a purpose, because one of the core principles of Torah and authentic Kabbalah, Hasidus, is that the greatest light is hidden in the darkness. And even more accurately, the darkness is a transmission, a divine transmission of consciousness, of potential, of blessing that is so dense because it's so full, it's so divine, that it cannot come out in a revealed way. It can't be internalized in a revealed way, or it would blast us out of existence. Huge light blasts us out of existence. The Torah talks about how when the Ten Commandments were given originally, with every commandment, the souls of the people listening flew out of their bodies because of the intensity of the divinity that was revealed. So the plan is ultimately all of that intensity, all of that divinity will be internalized, and each one of us will shine with an infinite divine light, an infinite intimacy with our own souls and with our Creator and with one another. And that will be a blessed world. That's the world of Gila, of redemption, the messianic vision of a world of peace and harmony and abundance and prosperity and love and blessing and oneness and souls shining through the bodies and divinity revealed, infinite life, no sickness, no suffering, no war, no jealousy, no competition, no death. So how come it's so intense? How come it looks like now things breaking down? Because it's a birth process, because at the end things get more intense, because the biggest move has to happen at the end. So going back to the idea of the snake energy, how does it embed itself in each of our experience? Shame, guilt, anger, wanting to hide, feeling fatally flawed, reactivity, when the defensiveness of the ego, that little inner voice, fear, all that stuff, that's just a core part of our experience, and it keeps us at odds with ourselves, keeps us at odds with the world, and it keeps us at odds with one another. So here's what I want to say. things that you don't, this is another principle. It's pretty deep, and it bears a lot of contemplation, bears a lot of thinking about. But here's the principle. This is a truism. It's part of the template of how things are created. When you react, when you're triggered by something, meaning you get reactive, you get angry, or you get resentful, or you get fearful, or you get shaken up in some way, not when you simply notice it, but when you get dragged down or shaken up by something, it's because whatever this trigger is in some way embedded in already in your own system. So if you have an issue with control and someone comes and tries to control you and you get so angry, you want to find where either you have a fear of being controlled or you have a tendency to want to control that you either use or you suppress, but somewhere in that, regardless of what angle it is that you're looking at it from, somewhere that control thing is still in you. And you can think of it like a Velcro. Like the trigger comes along, and if everything's smooth inside, if you've smoothed out that issue, if you no longer have a remaining, let's say, just unrefined conflict with that, unrefined piece of consciousness that has to do with that issue, the trigger will just float by. Maybe you'll notice it, but I mean, for sure, we can all see that some things bother our friends, our spouses, our family that don't bother us, and other things bother us that other people don't seem to care about. And doesn't that make you crazy? That makes me crazy. And how come? I guess one of my triggers that still needs to be refined is that I need everybody to think like me, or whatever, that's how it works. So we each have that little piece, those many pieces of snake energy that we can see like as if they're Velcro. And anytime you get triggered, if you can train yourself to understand that anytime you get triggered, it's simply showing you something that's in your unconscious, in your subconscious. And now that is snake energy that was embedded in your system as your soul comes into your body as part of your mission, as part of your own transformation and your own purpose in helping to transform the world. So it's good news to be triggered. I'm not saying it's comfortable. It's very uncomfortable, although you can learn to be more comfortable with it. In general, we can learn to be much more comfortable with being out of our comfort zone, and that's just a fact. So look for those things. Just notice. I want to suggest for the next 24 hours, and let me know how it goes on this thread. If you already have something to say or a question, please throw it out here, and like and share if you feel so inclined. But I want you to practice. I want to invite you to practice over the next 24 hours, noticing when you're triggered. Now, again, it doesn't just mean looking at something and saying, feeling, oh, that's too bad. It means like, right? Whether that's fear, anger, anxiety, judgment. But when there's an emotional charge for you, it's an absolute pointer to snake energy. That's part of your purpose. Doesn't make you bad. It makes you powerful. We are warriors, and we need to realize that. We're in a spiritual war. We're in the last stages of a spiritual war. And that's part of the Gila process. And all of creation, in a certain sense, is a war to reveal God, against all odds, to reveal the soul against all concealment, to reveal good against all the confusion, which I talked about in yesterday's live. That was the topic then. So be on the lookout for those things and understand that they're part of your purpose and they're holy. So your very triggers are holy. They can drag you down or they can lift you up. And when you use them to lift you up, when you notice the Velcro, and you work on it. What does it mean to work on it? Well, we'll do this more in a future live. But just again, you can close your eyes. You can feel the feelings in your body. You can listen to your energy and the discomfort with compassion. You can ask your body questions. You can ask your soul questions. You don't have to get answers in words. Now and then you might. But just the very act of listening opens up that compacted, unconscious snake energy. In the words of Kabbalah, it takes that tohu, it's from the realm of tohu, the realm of chaos, and brings it into tikkun, brings it into consciousness, into das, as we talked about yesterday. Brings it in as part of a higher order, holy, rectified system. So I've talked about a particular discourse in the past that from the Lubavitcher Rebbe from the Torah portion of Balak, which actually was read last week, and or 2 weeks ago, last week. I'm getting confused. So anyway, it was read, and it's without going into details, the Rebbe talks about how in the portion of Balak, there is a prophecy that's associated with that portion that's read in the synagogues every time the cycle of the Torah reading comes around to that Torah portion in the year. And the prophecy is from the prophet Micah, and it describes a time when the descendants of Jacob will be, as it says, as the prophet says, surrounded by many nations, surrounded with the implication of besieged, to the point where lo yikav ish, where we cannot put our hope in any person. Like, this is just something that nobody has the answer to. And we cannot rely on B'nai Adam, on human beings. And I've mentioned this text before because I think it's totally pivotal, but I want to bring out a particular part of it right now. So the idea is that this is, for those of you who have questions about why Geula, why I might say we're in the Geula process and yet things look so much more tough, so much less like the world of the future that's being described in the Torah and promised in the Torah. So the Rebbe describes this increased threat as the first stage of redemption. And it has a purpose, and the purpose is to shift us individually and collectively into the state of alignment with the final complete redemption, which is the world that I described a few minutes ago. And he describes it then, the Rebbe, in terms of, he takes this prophecy and he describes a world in which evil will be so evident, so embedded, so pervasive in outside of us and also inside of us, inside of our own even belief system, inside of our communities, inside of our leadership, even our spiritual leadership, and in some cases. But the evil will be so embedded that we will not be able as human beings to free ourselves of it. In other words, look at our world. The world is going, it's so fast. Who would have imagined, like from one day to the next, you have no idea what's going to happen. And this is, and whatever's behind it and whoever's behind it and the situations in themselves, all of it is here, is meant to be here in order to facilitate a shift in us into a new state of being that again is in alignment with the world of the future. And this brings us back to the idea that, and it says that we will need the help of God to get rid of it. And what is the shift? To, instead of, and I'm putting this in my own words, instead of fretting and fighting again, trying to solve all the world's problems, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't do what we can because we are obligated to do what we can, but when we feel like it's too big for us and we can't, and we're frustrated and we're scared and we're upset and we're confused, that is an absolute sign that it is time now to step into that shift. And instead of going horizontal, instead of looking at the world as it is from the physical plane, to connect to the divine source, light, and energy behind it. Everything in the universe is God in a costume. Everything. Always. Good and the opposite of good. And it's all for us. It's all for me. It's all for you. Each one of us is an entire universe. We are a fractal of the whole. So when you feel overwhelmed, whether it's with your internal issues or your external issues, the world around you, and I think it's inevitable. Somebody, actually several people described to me yesterday how much anxiety they're feeling, and that's not, something foreign to me either. It's like we are moving through waves of change. And once we understand that every time we're triggered, it's that Velcro, something is pulling out of our unconscious into our conscious, a piece of snake energy. And now we can use that as a doorway into more connection with God. Prayer is intensely powerful, into more connection with ourselves, into making more space for our turbulent emotions, which come from this higher world of tohu, of divine chaos. And as we're conscious and as we bring understanding to what's happening, and as we have that bigger frame, we turn tohu, chaos, into tikkun, into the higher divine order. I'm just going to check. I had made a few notes to make sure that I'm saying what I wanted to say. One more thing. Okay, and I'll end with this. So there is a famous Torah commentator, Rabbi Samson Hirsch, who lived not so long ago. He's basically our generations, more or less. And I read once a commentary that he wrote about the holiday of Sukkot. So if you're not familiar with it, just briefly, it's the Feast of Tabernacles, and that some people describe in English. It commemorates the Jews being led out of children of Israel being led out of the desert by God, and being protected by the clouds of glory, and all the miracles that happened there. So we sit in these booths. It's incredibly holy. It's Kabbalistically, we're sitting in the consciousness of God. There's a lot to say about it, but that holiday is associated with the final war. I posted something about this war of Gog and Magog. That's the prophesied final war preceding the redemption, or ushering in the ultimate redemption. So that war, and this might be comforting for many people, but it's definitely fascinating and useful for all of us. So the war Gog and Magog, the first, nobody's quite sure. It seems to refer to two countries, or maybe a person, Gog, who comes from Magog. There are different commentaries, and I must make sure everybody realizes that no negative prophecy, I've said this before, I'll say it again, it's a cosmic principle that no negative prophecy has to come true physically if it is activated spiritually. Every event in the universe is here to further the cosmic mission and the personal mission. So we want to co-opt. That's another reason why we want to proactively align, so that we can move forward as individuals, and then helping the collective to do so as well. The microcosm affects the macrocosm automatically, because there's only one snake. And when you rectify something in yourself, there's a piece of the cosmic snake energy that is rectified, and now it's easier for everybody, including you, and it's happening fast. So what did Rabbi Shimshon Raphael, so the holiday of Sukkot, associated with Gog and Magog, with this final war? And he says, and this is just a fascinating interpretation, and so apropos, he says that the word Gog comes from the Hebrew word Gog, or is associated with the Hebrew word Gog, which means literally roof, R-O-O-F, like the roof over your head. Now, when we're sitting in the booths in the sukkah, the Torah law is that they cannot be permanent structures. They have to be temporary. Sometimes they're made out of canvas. Sometimes I've seen one made out of milk crates. There's some made out of Legos. That's not too common. Usually they're made out of maybe canvas or wood. And then the roof, the most important, there's certain halachas, certain laws about the proportions of the walls, and you have to have 2.5 walls or whatever, or 3 or 4. Anyway, the roof is, like, in a certain sense, the most important, and the roof is not allowed to be solid. It has to be made out of natural material like wood or bamboo, branches, leaves, and you have to be able to see the stars through it. And it's quite interesting when you live in colder climates, because you could be sitting in the sukkah in the snow, or you could be sitting in the sukkah and eating in a rainstorm, depending on how committed you are to that practice. But anyway, it's so this is the idea of the roof of Gog. So Rabbi Hirsch says that the war of Gog and Magog is not actually meant to be a physical war, but rather a war of the roof. What does that mean? So let me ask you, what does it mean to have a roof over your head? A roof over our head symbolizes all of our tendency to find security in physical things. So it's not just a physical roof, it's food to eat, it's comfort, it's money, it's possessions, it's security from that which we have in the physical world. So according to Rabbi Hirsch's interpretation, the war of the end of days is a war to connect to the clouds of glory. Are we going to it's about letting go of the roof. So when we let go of the need, what's happening in our world, and I'm not saying that, that we shouldn't do our best to be well provided for and to help others be well provided for. That's not the point. The point is, where is our dependence? What do we believe is protecting us? Where do we look? What do we look to for protection? So in the spiritual war, can we make the shift? Are we making the shift between looking to stability and institutions and bank accounts and whatever it might be, things staying stable and the same, Like, look at all the buildings we're not allowed to go to and all the associations we're not allowed to have. And again, underpinning all of this, and I have a lot of issues with a lot of it. I'm not going to hold back on saying that. But at the bottom line, at the end of the day, it's only God who operates through people, and people get to choose. Do they want to be a good player or a bad player? And then the consequences they get, you know, in accordance with that. But the overall picture, it's always divine. So how can we open our eyes to see that? To what degree can we see that? That inner process, that inner intention that's leading us somewhere. To what degree can, it's not just the physicality, but it's the illusion of the physical world that hides the truth of Ein Od Milvado, that there's nothing here but the one. The physical body that hides the truth over you, that you're a piece of the divine at your core. You're co-creative. Should you align and do the work, get rid of the Velcro. The more we get rid of the Velcro, the more I believe our co-creativity just flows right through us and influences reality. And I see it all the time. That Velcro of our, you know, the snake energy will pull us out of alignment and will block the creative force that is meant to run through us. Or let's put it this way, it will create things that are in alignment with the things that we are, that we're upset about and resisting and so on and so forth. So that's got to be a work in progress. That's part of what we, you know, I'm here to teach and support also in my school. But the bottom line here is that we want to start asking ourselves, like, how deep am I looking? What level am I connecting to? Am I going horizontal and reacting? It's getting stuck. We'll all have reactions, but getting stuck in the reactivity. And again, once you're in reactivity, you tend to get more stuck in reactivity. And then when people don't see it like you get more reactive and they get more reactive. And all of a sudden, we're all distracted by fighting with each other instead of by going deep into the true reality. And this is the war of the roof. And this is a way that the war of Gog and Magog can be won without, without blood being shed. But we have to wake up and let go of the roof, let go of the illusion that the physical world is running on its own. There isn't a single thing here, not spiritual, not physical, that's not actually God, like a hand in the puppet. You know, the puppet, the cloth puppet, the hand is making it move. It doesn't exist by itself, but it's covering the hand. That's its essence. That's the nature of this world. A hand in a puppet, only there are lots of different puppets, and it's a pretty intense illusion, but it is more and more possible and easy to see through it. Consciousness is the name of the game. Authentic Kabbalah and Hasidus are, I believe, essential, as well as transformational work. Learning from the text, that's what a big part of what I spend my time doing with myself and with my students. And all the secrets are there, and not just the secrets, but the transmission of light and divinity that allows you to supercharge your own co-creative powers, to clarify your awareness, and to connect to a bigger force and partner with that, and so much more. Okay, so to letting go of the roof, maybe I'll bring this up again in the next live because it just really bears deep exploration. But wherever you're holding on and wherever you're stuck in an illusion of the physical world, of what looks like darkness, just go deeper. Look for your triggers, work on them, bring them into prayer, bring them into consciousness, connect to God, and understand, look for the hand in the puppet. And know that you're fighting and helping to win the spiritual war. Okay, that's it for today. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Lots of love from Jerusalem.